Hi, it's Laura, Aquamarine 18. Thank you for stopping by. I haven't been on YouTube for a little while. As some folks will know, since I mentioned it in prior videos, I was traveling for a good portion of February. I went to Mexico and it was absolutely fantastic. I was there for 10 days in Puerto Morelos area, and yeah, it was a great trip. So I thought that I would make a little video about that in place of, maybe a more usual February updates video. So just in case anyone was interested to see a few pictures of where I was, that I would share those. And if all works well in terms of the video editing, which I'm very much an amateur at, then I will put a fun little video at the end, a little video from my trip to one of the cenotes that I got to visit at Salvetica Adventure Park. So, yeah, we went from February 13th to 23rd, and the weather was great. The trip was great. Really, other than kind of the typical travel hiccups like late flights and things like this, really, like, nothing about the trip could have been better. Something that I really have a hard time with sometimes is actually kind of unplugging and leaving work aside and giving myself time off. And I really tried to make a deliberate attempt to do that on this trip. So I did something I never do, which is turn on my vacation auto reply on my work email addresses and just not look at them. So that was a interesting thing, and it felt really good to do that. And to just spend kind of 10 days resting and eating well and seeing the amazing area of Mexico that we were in as much as we could. Really, really incredible. So I thought I would just put together a couple of photos to share. And again, hopefully I can splice this little video clip in of one of my favorite fun things that I did on my trip. So if you're interested in a couple of vacation photos, stay tuned. So we flew out on February 13th amidst quite chilly weather, and we were very happy to arrive in Mexico and to see beautiful beach already from the airplane as we were coming in, and to see that we would have beautiful weather the entire time we were there, which was just fantastic. And while I was there, I got to have this little private, very private balcony. And so this is where I did my daily draws and journaling and tarot and oracle time on this balcony, which faced into kind of, it faced the ocean, but the ocean wasn't that close. So we mostly faced this canopy of tree cover, which was really nice because it was private and quiet, which was great. And where we stayed was beautiful. There was a beautiful beach with some little kind of huts with chairs that we could sit under to get some shade. And it was just a beautiful place to walk around and spend time. And, a really great place to be. And I was very, very relaxed, I'm happy to say. Soaking up some sun and, being away from the kind of everyday responsibilities at home was very, very rejuvenating. Whenever I'm anywhere new, seeing animals that I am unfamiliar with is always a total highlight. People know I love animal oracle decks, and I like to, spend time observing the other, inhabitants of anywhere that I am. And so the two animals that I got to meet that I had not met before, one was the coati, and this is a coati, and it was the best picture that I could get of them. And they are related to raccoons, which I'm very familiar with and contend with pretty regularly at home. But I had never seen coati before. They were pretty elusive a lot of the time during the daytime, but they would come out at night looking for snacks, and so we got to see them a couple of times The other one that I became very familiar with over the course of my trip were these quite large lizards that we saw. And these lizards were really everywhere. There were certain places that we would pass, like beside one restaurant that we walked by kind of multiple times a day just because of where it was located. These lizards, they told us they live underneath the deck of that restaurant. So they would always be outside sunning themselves. And like, it's interesting, you get used to seeing certain animals where you live all the time. Like where I live at home, it's squirrels and chipmunks for the most part and some birds. Whereas, in Mexico where I was anyway, it was these lizards. And this one scared the shit out of me when I saw him on the path, because I got quite close before I realized he was there, and I did quite the jump. The other one that I couldn't get a good photo of, but that I really, really liked observing while I was there and saw a lot, was pelicans. And there was groups of pelicans that would fly over the sea, and we would see them kind of hunting for fish. And that was really neat as well, and I really liked to watch them, but no picture. So my absolute favorite place that we visited was called Tulum, and Tulum is an ancient Mayan site that was built starting in like the 1200s, but then over some centuries afterwards. And Tulum is this kind of fairly large, to me anyway, area with lots of different buildings and things there that you can walk between. And we had a really great guide named Yuri, and Yuri shared a lot about the historical life in the Mayan city and the cultural significance of different things that we saw on the site, which was really fantastic, and we had such a good time. I would really suggest that you get to see Tulum if you're in the area. So something that we learned was that we were walking on the original ancient roads coming in and out of Tulum, and that the roads are made of this material that makes the roads white so that they would be really visible and reflective at night for folks traveling and seeing by moonlight. They would be able to see where the road was really easily. And the terrain, there was lots of cactuses there, just really sprawling open space, amazing views, so beautiful. We saw the original walls of the city, so it's a walled city, the site, and we got to walk through the wall as new guests to the city. So that was one of the first things that we saw. And we learned about a lot of the different buildings and features of the buildings there. And one of the things that our guide Yuri mentioned about this particular building and some of the others that look like it is that these round columns are actually not originating with, or like not that common to, Mayan architecture. So they actually show the ways that the people who lived in Tulum and who built Tulum were in conversation with and had diplomatic ties with different other groups that had different styles of architecture, and they were influencing each other as they traded and had different kinds of relations with each other. So the columns weren't, in a lot of other Mayan sites, but they were here because of that. We saw this building was a place where the people who lived in the city drew up and took care of the water. So there's a cenote with fresh water underneath this building, and the water would be brought up from there. This is the Temple of the Wind God, and that's overlooking the sea. Really amazing view and amazing building to see, and very windy up there. And all around the site there are these different stone walls, and there's some tombs and things like this around the buildings that you're not, you can't go inside, for good reason. They're protected areas, but they kind of told us on our tour where some different things had been discovered and some of the underground aspects of Tulum, which we didn't get to see, but it was really good to learn about. And if you look really closely, you can see a lizard friend on the corner of that rock wall there. This is a kind of wide view of Tulum, showing a lot of the different buildings that are there, including El Castillo, the castle, in the center of the picture there, the kind of highest one. And it's, really interesting building. And at that part of the building, the top of Castillo is, I think, a later piece that was built on top of a building that was already there. So one of the later built parts of the city. And you can see lots of columns again. And there's all these different walls going around. And it was a really, really nice place to go for a walk and to learn so much about some of the history of the area that we were in. And the view from Tulum is just incredible. So it's on a bluff, and it faces into the Caribbean Sea, and so you can just see water for a long ways when you stand up here. And so the Temple of the Wind God is just to one side from this picture. And we went, you can see kind of in the background out there in the water, there's a kind of, what is this called? Like a area of the water where it gets, a sandbar where it gets a bit shallower out there. And quite a few miles away from Tulum, we got to go snorkeling out there. So our guide who had taken us and taught us about Tulum also took us to go for a short, hour-long snorkel around the Caribbean Sea. So we just kind of walked out and then got kind of chest deep and then put the flippers on and went. And one of the other great places that I got to visit while I was there was the Selvatica Adventure Park. And we couldn't really take photos there because, part of the activity, I guess, is that they have photographers there and want to sell the pictures that they take. So they asked that you not do that. But we were able to get one super graceful video of me, which here we go without further ado.
There you go! You going in, Sam? I'm just going to jump in.